So our speaker today is Devon Laney, and I got to meet him, I guess it was a few months ago. I think maybe it was before the holidays that he and I had a chance to chat. And he has come to Tulsa from Birmingham, Illinois, to run 36 Degrees North, which is our entrepreneurship hub here in Tulsa. And because he came in about mid 2019, there's a lot of you who maybe haven't had a chance to meet him yet because everything got shut down with the pandemic. But I was so glad to make his acquaintance. His work at the Innovation Depot in Birmingham was just incredibly successful. So I think he's the perfect choice to begin to think about 36 Degrees North and the ways it can continue to evolve to serve not only the individual entrepreneurs in our city, but the economic vitality of our city as a whole. So Devon, I'm going to mute myself and turn it over to you. And thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate the opportunity and grateful to all of you for making the time on a nice Friday morning to look at a screen and listen to me. So thank you all very much. I'm excited to share a little bit about 36 Degrees North and really what we're doing and where we're going and the impact that we're generating in Tulsa, and really excited to talk about as well, I think, just the trajectory of Tulsa and the ecosystem here with startups, entrepreneurs, and innovators. So I am going to share my screen. I have a presentation, a quick one, not going to be too long, but wanted to share something with you all just to have that we could walk through. So can everyone see? I hope everyone can see. Okay, great. So, so good morning. Thank you all. Just briefly, background on me. I know Wendy touched on this a little bit, but my name is Devon Laney. I'm the president and CEO of 36 Degrees North. I have over 15 years experience building innovation ecosystems, most recently before coming to Tulsa in Birmingham, Alabama, where I co-founded, built, and operated one of the largest entrepreneurship centers in the US called Innovation Depot. It was a 140,000 square foot entrepreneurship center. We bought and renovated an old abandoned Sears building in downtown Birmingham, and had been vacant for about 25 years and converted that into a world-class entrepreneurship center. So really proud of that work, proud of what we were able to accomplish there. Prior to Birmingham, I worked for Accenture in their technology strategy practice. So I was based out of Atlanta, Georgia, but spent about a year or so in Chicago living there and working, and then also spent a good bit of time up in the New York, New Jersey area on some projects. And then way back in the day, back when I was in college and in grad school, I had my own tech startup that I built and then eventually was able to exit during grad school. So I've got experience kind of from both sides, and I've been doing this a long time, and just really excited about the opportunity that entrepreneurship brings and the ability it has to really move communities forward, to create economic mobility. And really personally for me, my grandfather, who after World War II moved to Alabama and started the first radio station in my hometown, AM 990 WEIS, which is still there. And you know, I kind of attribute that to the reason that I'm even here, right? I mean, that's the reason. My mom grew up in Alabama and met my dad, and the reason that I'm here today is I kind of go back to entrepreneurship. So it's deeply rooted in my background, and I'm very passionate about it. So I'm fortunate that I get to work in the space with wonderful people and smart people every day to help drive this forward. So a little bit about me. 36 Degrees North. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we say we're Tulsa's base camp for entrepreneurs, startups, and innovators. And really simply, what we're trying to do is provide high quality workspace, helpful resources, and the diverse community that we believe are needed to build growing companies that drive economic impact in the Tulsa region. So everything we do is focused on economic impact, right? How do we create jobs? How do we create opportunities for capital investment? How do we create opportunities for workforce development? How do we work with partners to drive economic development? Because we believe that economic development is a three-legged stool, not just a two-legged stool. Historically, communities all across the US have focused on recruitment and retention as drivers of economic development. And while I think that's wonderful, and organizations and communities should focus on recruiting and retention, there's a third piece of economic development, and that is around the growth of new businesses. And so we believe that is a third strategy in the overall economic development landscape that we focus on for long-term consistency and long-term growth in a community. And we also believe that Tulsa has a real opportunity to take advantage of the resources that are here, to take advantage of the historical legacy industries that are here, and to think about, moving forward, what are the complementary startup entrepreneurial type industries that can then work alongside those legacy industries, bringing technology or technology as a service to help expand and grow and diversify our regional economy. So that's the things that we focus on every day. Everything we do is aligned with driving economic impact in the region. Our impact, I'll brag quickly, our impact, since 2017, we've had over $375 million in direct economic impact. And we measure that through job creation, the earnings of employees that are paid, all capital that is raised by our companies, and then the gross sales of all of our companies, all of our member companies. And so for a nonprofit with a small team to have had that level of impact in just a few short years is something we're very proud of. And I think we have a great baseline and an opportunity to grow and increase that even more over time. To break that down a little more succinctly, for every $1 that has been invested in 36 Degrees North, we've been able to generate over $115 in economic impact. And again, I think that's a great ROI from a community perspective. Every $2,500 invested so far in 36 has been able to create or retain a job. And these are often high-paying, high-skilled jobs in technology or in ancillary services. And in 2020 alone, our members created over 1,500 jobs, and we served over 340 companies, which represent a diverse range of industries, over 47 industries. So very proud of all of that. This is our impact report, which just came out actually on Monday of this week. So I will flip over to our website. You can go to our website, 36degreesnorth.co, 36n.co, and at the top under About, you can see our impact. Click that. It just kind of goes through some of the basics. Again, I hit all of them at a very high level, but this breaks it down a little more succinctly about what we do, who we are, specifically how we provide it, workspace, community, resources, those three things uniquely positioned together to give entrepreneurs the best opportunity to be successful. And then these are the results from 2020 alone, how many jobs, how many companies, the sales numbers of our companies, almost $100 million. And then you look at the funding numbers that came in 2020, a little over $15 million, majority of that in venture capital, grants, loans, friends and family, and angel investors as well. And I think all of these numbers, by the way, are increases over 2019 numbers. So we actually saw growth in 2020. More than half of our companies, about 56% of our companies, actually saw their revenues increase in 2020 over 2019. And I think that's attributable to so many of our companies being in the technology space and being in technology services. We have several companies in the fintech space, financial technology space, or in the education technology space, and they saw incredible growth in 2020. I think due in some part to the pandemic, and I think also too, just as we begin to shift the economic base of the Tulsa region, we're going to see more and more diversification of industries where technology can play a role. And you're going to see, I think, these numbers increase, these investment numbers increase as well over time. You see some of the other impacts we've made: members, connections, workshops. We had, even in a pandemic, we had over 275 workshops. 30 of our member companies actually secured funding, which again, in a year with a pandemic, I think is remarkable. Had lots of great events. We used to do incredible in-person events. We've shifted all of those to virtual events. We work very closely with our friends at Tulsa Remote to continue bringing in just incredible diverse talent from around the country to Tulsa to live and work in Tulsa. Work with great partners, Philanthrope, others you'll see. This is one of our software companies, Bottle Learning, which is a husband and wife team software platform for education. They reached over 50,000 students in all 50 states and 100 countries in 2020. And that company is based right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 36 degrees north, secured funding. They're growing. We're really proud of them. We work with the North Tulsa complex. Obviously, our friends Holberton, I saw Obum is on the call this morning. We're such great friends of Holberton. I think they're just doing incredible work here to help drive that workforce development that's going to be needed as we continue to grow the technology sector here and making sure that we've got the right workforce in place. Just a lot of great people. I'm not going to go through all these, but you all can see just so much activity, so many partners over the course of the year, so much activity over the course of the year. Our impact report has received great press. We're grateful for that from television and print and even radio. So that's great as well. And then you can also flip through the print report. If you don't have a physical copy, you can always flip through the actual report and take a look at it, which is kind of neat here as well. It's super simple, super easy to read. We wanted to make it as digestible as possible and as simple as possible. I've been doing this a long time, and I know everyone's busy. And the last thing you need is some big report, thick report that you have to sit and read through because you're not going to read through it. And so we try to make this as simple as possible, capture the 5 metrics, and try to tell the story as succinctly as possible. So really proud of the impact report that just came out for 2020 and proud of the impact that we're having on Tulsa. So appreciate you all letting me share that a little bit. Now back to the presentation here. Just to kind of recap quickly our vision for 36 Degrees North, and what we want to do is create a world-class entrepreneurial support organization. When I got to Tulsa, 36 Degrees North was essentially only a co-working space. It was developed back in 2016 as a place essentially for remote workers, entrepreneurs, freelancers, solo entrepreneurs, really anyone to come together to gather and work, just a dedicated workplace. As we have gone forward, the community, I think, has come together and said, well, we really need to have a place for companies to grow, right? We've got a place for individuals. Co-working is very much focused on the individual. It's like a gym. I always joke and say it's sort of a come one, come all model. There really aren't a whole lot of guardrails. If you like the space and you want to work here, you can work here. But we need a place dedicated and focused on supporting the growth of startup businesses that are looking to scale and hire employees and create economic impact and raise capital. And to do that, we have to have the right infrastructure, and you have to have the right resources in place. And we have to be able to curate the right kind of programming to assist those entrepreneurs at the stage they are currently in. And co-working is difficult to do that because you don't have any similarities among the audience, right? If I brought in someone today to talk about how to negotiate term sheets with a venture capitalist, well, that's only applicable to probably 5% of the people at any given time working in a co-working space because there's so many different kinds of people in here. But if we had a space that was dedicated just to people that are building companies, growing startups, raising capital, and I brought that same speaker in, it would be applicable to everyone in the space. So it allows us the ability and the opportunity to really create more focused programming and to also really think through how do we make sure we're providing the right workforce, the right resources, and the right infrastructure to those kinds of entrepreneurs. So that's what an entrepreneurial support organization is, and it's looking to really evolve from just co-working to a much broader entrepreneurial support organization. And we're going to do that by developing a more vibrant, diverse, and inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem, again, to drive economic impact throughout the Tulsa region. That's our focus. So our 5-year plan focuses on 3 big areas: facilities, partnerships, and programs. And our thesis really is that entrepreneurship is a key component of the economic development strategy for our region. And we have to do that to build long-term consistent growth. I've mentioned that already. Our 5-year plan around facilities is to maintain our existing current co-working space, which is about 20,000 square feet. It's focused on individual entrepreneurs, freelancers, remote workers, kind of a come one, come all. And then we're going to launch a new scalable incubation space That'll be opening July of this year, 2021. It's 50,000 square feet. We're taking an entire floor of the City Hall building, One Technology Center, and converting that into an incubator for high growth, scalable tech or tech enabled companies. It will be the largest tech incubator in Oklahoma, one of the largest in this part of the country, actually. And I believe it may even be just the largest incubator period in Oklahoma. But we're excited about that. We're going to be focusing that program on high growth, scalable companies. We have obtained our state certification as an incubator, which will go into effect officially when we open in July. But we're thrilled about that expansion. We've now hired a program director to oversee the incubator. And as of this morning, I got a brief this morning, we have 73% of the space already spoken for by startup companies. So we've had incredible interest, great applications have come through. Unlike co-working, which you can just come take a tour and sign up for membership, in an incubator, you have to apply. Companies have to apply to the incubator and then be accepted. You have to fit the criteria. And so we've seen great applications and really solid companies that have applied, and we've accepted so far. I think we've accepted about 15, maybe that we've seen applications from. So we're excited about that. And then long term, we want to be able to combine everything under one roof. Again, this is all just sort of a proof of concept. We're trying to say, does Tulsa? Our thesis is that Tulsa does have the capacity to support a space like this, that we have enough companies to take advantage of a space like this, or we can recruit companies here, startup companies, to take advantage of this and to begin to graduate out. And incubators are just that. Incubators are not meant to be a permanent home. They're meant to be a home for the first 3 to 5 years of a company's growth as they're maturing and stabilizing, until they get to the point where they really don't need all the resources. They just need space. And at that point, they can go sign a long-term lease somewhere with much more predictability in their revenues. And so we want to be able to showcase this, prove the hypothesis, and then ultimately combine everything together under one roof as a true vertically integrated entrepreneurial support organization, an ESO. We think we're targeting about 100,000 square feet, maybe a little more for that space. And we want that to be a catalyst for development of not only economic development and startup development, but development of the community in which we are in, right? So when I did this in Birmingham, the building that we bought was in a part of the city downtown that had been disregarded for a long time. It was adjacent to the Civil Rights District. The building had been vacant for 25 years. And we came in and did this, and it became a catalyst for development of the area around it. I'd like to do something like that in Tulsa. I think there's plenty of opportunities to do that. And so we have to take one step at a time. We realized we couldn't make the leap from a 20,000 square foot co-working space to a 100,000 square foot ESO all in one step. So we wanted to do it over time to validate the model. I will show a few photos just because we just got these pretty recently from the architect. So this is actually what the space will look like. Let me see, does that make it a little larger? There we go, yeah. So it's great space. We've gone in, if any of you have been in the One Technology Center building, all those floors now are really sort of beige cube farms when you walk into them. They're a little 1994 when you walk in. So we're gutting the floor and really opening it up, putting in all glass modular walls to accommodate all these different companies at different stages of growth. You can see that's looking back. The building is all glass, which is great. So we wanted to still remain as open as possible to bring in as much light as possible, and just having great workspace for all the companies. You can see this is a neat idea. So instead of putting in a hard wall there, we use these wood slats to create separation, but to bring in, again, more of the natural light. And we've put in things like a white noise system for the entire floor, so that privacy is not an issue. We're making sure that everything is distanced properly, and capacities have changed and shifted since the pandemic, and what people are wanting or what they're comfortable with. I will say we've seen an incredible increase, and I think Wendy mentioned this at the beginning of the call. There is a desire, we're hearing it loud and clear from people to get back to being around other people, to being in a space, to being with their team in person again. And so we actually believe that our industry, co-working and incubation and accelerators, we think we're going to see a huge uptick actually. And I know historically, just from doing this a long time, any time there is a downturn in the economy, there is always, as a lagging indicator, there's always an increase in entrepreneurship and new business growth, whether that's through necessity or opportunities that were created by the downturn. But I think we're going to see that as well here. And the numbers that we're seeing from the application side for the incubator, I think are beginning to bear that out. So I'll go through these quickly, just our 5-year plan around partnerships. We're going to work with our corporate partners to launch targeted initiatives, maybe some industry-focused accelerators. I think we'll see some of those come online this summer. Corporate innovation startups and maybe some industry-focused hackathons. We've already engaged with several of our industry partners to bring in mentors and advisors for a lot of our startup companies, which has been very helpful. We want to work with our community partners to increase access throughout the community. One thing that I'm a big believer in, having spent and learned a lot in Birmingham the last 15 years, is that an organization like 36 Degrees North, which is a community organization, a community economic development organization, should look like the community, right? Shouldn't look like one segment of the community. It should look like the community. And we want to make sure that we're being intentional and thoughtful about that. And I realize that it's not going to just happen organically. And so we have to have some outreach efforts, some targeted outreach efforts, and making sure that the community is aware of the opportunity that 36 Degrees North can bring, and that we can learn and help support entrepreneurs throughout the community. So we're going to be working with community partners. We'll be hiring an outreach coordinator on our team to really focus exclusively on going out into the community and making sure that people are aware of the opportunities and that we can meet them where they are to help provide resources and support them. And then we also want to work with our university partners to increase capacity, build on additional capacity, create a talent pipeline through internships. We've talked about maybe even launching a couple of new programs around specifically university internships with some of our startup companies, and then increasing capital sources, maybe an early stage seed fund, and then working with some of our existing partners to recruit industry specific startups as well. Our programs, our core program is going to be the incubator. I've talked about that a little bit. The average duration of a company in the incubator is about 5 years, 3 to 5 years on average, and then they graduate out. We have accountability programs in place where we'll meet with every company on at least on a quarterly basis, more likely on a monthly or weekly basis, but formally every quarter. And we provide as needed resources, guidance, and support. We're a founding member of something called the Global Accelerator Network, which is a curated group of about 150 organizations like ours around the world. And by being part of that, all of the companies in our incubator get access to almost $2 million worth of perks for free. So everything from like Amazon Web Services to Rackspace to HubSpot to every random software platform with an API you can imagine as they're building and scaling their companies, their businesses, they get access to all those resources for free. Mental health programs, HR, payroll, benefit programs, all these different pieces that are super important. And then we also have a lot of local partners that we've brought in as well too to help support these entrepreneurs as part of those perks. We're gonna be working with partners to launch some curated accelerator programs. Those are a much shorter time frame, usually 10 to 13 weeks, very intense. They're full time, and they're usually around a very specific curriculum or a specific industry. I think we'll see an announcement on those coming up in the next couple of weeks, maybe a month or so, but we'll be kicking those off this summer. Excited about those. And then we'll obviously always have co-working as a key core program of 36 Degrees North too, right? Which is for those individuals that maybe aren't sure what they want to do yet, or they're working and they're a remote worker, or they're a community partner and they just need a place to come and work and be around other entrepreneurs, but without a long-term commitment. They can still come and work through our co-working space. So we'll keep all the programs in place. Those two programs, the incubator and the accelerator, are really focused on high growth startups, people that are building and scaling companies. Co-working is always, as I said, more focused on the individual worker, the remote worker, the freelancer. Both are important to the ecosystem, and we plan to try to have programs in place for both groups. Our economic impact goal is $500 million in new impact over the next 5 years. I think it's attainable. I think we can get there. It's going to be a challenge, but I think we can get there. And we measure that, as I said, through direct job creation, company revenues, capital investment. In the next 5 years, we want to create a world-class ESO facility, entrepreneurship support organization, where we combine everything under one roof: incubation, co-working, resource providers, capital sources, everything under one roof, so we can become a true destination, a front door, if you will, to the entrepreneurial ecosystem here. So everyone knows they can go to 36 Degrees North. We'll triage where they are, and then we'll route them to the right resources, but they know that's their first point of contact. We want to have diverse, inclusive membership. Our goals are around 33% minority, 50% female by 2024. And then we want to be a nationally recognized best practice, and that means industry awards, national press. We want people to start talking about Tulsa when they talk about other startup and entrepreneurial communities. And we want 36 Degrees North to be recognized as a best practice in supporting those efforts. And I'll end this by saying that we really just need your help. We appreciate all of you. Everyone on this call, you can all help in any way possible. We're always looking for industry expertise, mentors, advisors, people that can work with startups, donate or provide your time to come in and sit and meet with these entrepreneurs one-on-one, hold sessions to help train the entrepreneurs. We're also looking, if you're in a position at a corporation, to be an early adopter of some of these technologies, some of these startups. That's the best thing you can do. As these companies are building and growing and just getting off the ground, they're looking for those early adopters, people to give them a shot, just to be able to say they have a customer or a local customer. That's incredibly important. And then the last two are sort of more broad, but really asking everyone to be an advocate for what we're doing, which is economic development through entrepreneurship, to think about entrepreneurship and the growth of new businesses as a significant piece of the economic development strategy for our region. Because long term, if we're going to be successful and have consistent growth, we have to focus on this along with recruitment and retention. We have to. And so 36 Degrees North, that's our lane. That's what we do with a lot of partners and a lot of help. But certainly hope you will be an advocate for that. And then if you're in a position, obviously, too, to support any of our programs or our operations financially, we appreciate that. We're a 501c3, and so we're always trying to do a lot with a little, but we're good stewards of the money that we do raise. So if you're in a position, certainly appreciate that as well. That's my contact information. You can see it there. Our website, 36n.co. You can find everything about us there. Our annual report, ways to get involved, our programs. You can find us on all the social media platforms. That's my direct email and my direct Alabama phone number with the 205 area code. So please feel free to reach out to me directly. And if I can ever answer any questions or help in any way, certainly want to. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Good. Well, I've got a couple of simple ones to start, and then we've got some more interesting ones in the chat thread. So I love that you said that we could help by being early adopters of technologies and services that are being developed under your Entrepreneurship Hub. Is there a single source where we can go and learn what those are? I honestly don't know how to do that.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Well, and it is, I would say the answer is currently sort of, right? If you go to our website, you can find a list of all our member companies, and you can search or group them by industry. So if you are in the financial services industry, you can look at financial service companies and you can see what they are. And in a co-working space where you just have sort of, as I said, workers in from across the board, not necessarily all startups, but maybe industry professionals or salespeople, it may be a little harder. But once the incubator is up and going, all of those companies in the incubator, all of them will be early stage startup companies with products or services in the technology space in various industries. And we are in the midst of revamping our website completely. So that will be a little easier to find them and to find how you can engage with companies. But I would also say, if there is interest before that website launch, please reach out to me directly, and I'll be happy to connect you with the companies that we think certainly could benefit from any assistance.
Great. Okay, funny question. how do you create the degree sign on the keyboard? I found it once and have never been able to find it again.
Yep.
Every time I type
Well,
out your name, I struggle.
that's the $1 million question, right? It's $1 million question. No, I didn't know either. I'll tell you. So I'll answer that with a funny thing. So when I was in Birmingham and was being recruited to Tulsa, and I kept having the same issue when I would like respond to things. I'm like, I don't know how to type the degree symbol, and I'd have to go search for it every time. And I finally just asked one day, and there's a shift. I think it's Shift Command 8 on your keyboard. That'll make it come up, and at the very bottom of our website, you can find a little link to tell you how to type the degree symbol. And believe it or not, we get a ton of traction to the website from people that Google how do I type the degree symbol, and it routes them to our website, which is pretty funny. But the other thing I'll mention is when it was announced in Birmingham, because I've been there 15 years, and when it was announced in Birmingham that I was leaving Birmingham to come to Tulsa to 36 degrees north, I actually had two different people on two different occasions come up to me and ask me what 36 degrees north was. One of them actually said, "Is that like a frozen yogurt place?" And I just kind of looked at him, and I responded. I said, "Yes, it is. I'm leaving to go work at a frozen yogurt place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's where I'm headed." So it's kind of funny.
Well, you should serve frozen yogurt in your news.
we're gonna have cold brew and kombucha on tap. So
there you go.
That's pretty close.
And Mike suggests you just copy and paste. Once you get the degree sign once, you just copy and paste it.
That's easy too. Yep.
So this actually is a good segue, though, when you were talking about leaving Birmingham to come to Tulsa. Obum wants to know, what about your experiences in Birmingham prepared you to come here to Tulsa? And then I would add on to that, why did the opportunity to come to Tulsa excite you?
Oh, wow. Yeah, great questions. I can always count on Obum for great questions. Mm-hmm. A couple of things. So I would say, number one, I felt like in Birmingham, I learned so much just about community and a community that had maybe a difficult past, and a past that for a large portion of the community had created a lot of mistrust, a lot of anger. People had for so long had I think used a lot of the activities of the past to serve as justification for why you could not do things going forward, or to serve as excuses for why you had not done things already. And I learned so much. I worked so closely there with the mayor's office, who became a great friend, Randall Woodfin, who's I think one of the youngest mayors in America, African American from Birmingham, and just became such a great friend with several folks in Birmingham who helped me realize that I couldn't come into the community not being from Birmingham and say, well, this is how we're going to do it. Let me show you. Come over here. I'm going to do it. I'm going to show you how to do it. You can't be successful that way. You don't have the authenticity. You don't have the perspective or the context. And it really has to be community led. I've learned that as well, that the community has to lead it itself. You can be there to say, let me support, let me help you where I can, let me give you voice, let me amplify what you're doing. But it can't be someone coming into the community and just doing it or telling the community how to do it. And so I learned a lot about how to support, enable, listen, and learn. And I see so much of that, I think, in Tulsa as well, right? When I got to Tulsa and I learned, I had never, sadly, I had never knew the story. I didn't know the story of the Tulsa Race Massacre, knew nothing at all about it. And then when I got here and began to learn more about it, I began to see a lot of similarities in the way that there was a lot of distrust in the community and a lot of people looking at the previous actions in this community and using those as justification for why you can't do things or excuses as to why you had not done things. And I just felt that there was a great opportunity here to build something really impactful, to help the community really be the best version of itself it could be. I didn't come here. People say, "Oh, well, we're going to be the next Silicon Valley," of the, what is it, Silicon Prairie or whatever people talk about. I always kind of joke and say, well, no, we're not. I don't want to be Silicon Valley. I want to be, and we're not going to be. If anyone tells you that, they're lying. I don't care what they say, they're lying. And maybe that's not the right thing for me to say, but we're not going to be that. And we don't want to be. I think we want to be the best version of Tulsa we can be, to enable and support Tulsa to grow and become a leader in innovation and world-class entrepreneurship and really community impact. And I saw an opportunity here to be part of building that future and laying that groundwork and building that road and that path, and helping to drive that growth, as opposed to going to another community where maybe it was already done. My mom, who is now retired, but it was a travel nurse, an ER nurse for the last 15 years, and spent the last 15 years out in the Bay Area in San Francisco. And she would always tell me, "Oh, you should come out here. You'll make a lot more money." And I would always say, I'll gross more money, but I'll net less, because it's just so expensive. But it didn't really interest me. That community didn't interest me because it's already done. I can go out there and get on board the train that's already moving. But that doesn't excite me. It doesn't fulfill me. I wanted to come and be part of building the train, laying the framework, plotting out the direction, and helping to build that with the people in the community that are there. I believe we can do it all together. And I also, last thing I'll say to that point is, I've seen greater alignment in Tulsa than I've seen in any community I've worked in before. Birmingham, Chattanooga, Tampa, a lot, any of these other cities I've worked with or in, I've seen greater alignment here between public sector, private sector, philanthropic community, the state. Everyone sort of is saying, yes, we understand that this is important and we have to diversify our economy and we have to focus on entrepreneurship and workforce. And we're all aligned behind that. And we have incredible resources to put behind assets that are here and to do it in a very intentional way. And that is exciting to me, and exciting for the I think the impact we're going to see and the opportunity to plant the flag in Tulsa, so that in 5 years we're going to look up and people are going to mention Tulsa in the same breath as some other entrepreneurial cities and hubs. And there's no reason it can't. There's absolutely no reason we can't do that.
So that was a rich question, Obum, and what a beautiful reflection on authentic community engagement, Devon. Unexpected and really, I think, something that all of us could learn from. And to your point about we look up 5-10 years from now, won't recognize it. I was involved with the development of the Arts District. And 10 years ago, we'd walk down a road with roadkill and falling down fences. And I'd say, just imagine. And it's extraordinary now. So Linda in our chat thread talks about how companies are rethinking their own workspaces and understanding that work from home is here to stay, that maybe some of their own spaces need to be more flexible. And Mike mentions that 36 Degrees North has really had much of a collegial look at other co-working spaces than a competition view. And so I wanted you to reflect a little bit about the future of work and how co-working fits in both with established corporations and as well as with your entrepreneurs.
Yeah, those are both great questions. Wow, I should expect no less from such a smart group. I honestly believe that people say, oh well, gosh, working from home that's it. That's where everything is going. That's where it's headed. I disagree with that because I saw an article the other day, actually, from the New York Times. I'll see if I can find it, maybe Wendy, and share it with you. But it talked about how the data is showing that working from home is not as productive or as efficient as working in an environment around other people, because everything takes longer, right? If I've got a quick question that I can hop up and run over here to someone on my team and ask that question, or we put our heads together, have a quick 3-minute conversation, solve a problem, I'm back to work. In this world, I have to send you a message. You have to see if you're available. You've got another meeting scheduled. We have a Zoom chat. You forget something and you have to have another Zoom chat. And so it ends up taking hours when you could really solve it in maybe 5 minutes. But it's just, and so the productivity has decreased actually. They have the data to back it up, which was, I think, really interesting. So what I believe is, if I could put on, the magic hat, I think we're going to settle on a more flexible work environment. So I think, if anything, I think for small businesses and for startup companies, not a whole lot has changed, other than they realize now that really you don't have to be necessarily on the East Coast or the West Coast to grow a business. You can really be anywhere to grow a business. That you have the same infrastructure here that you'd have in San Francisco. It's just a lot cheaper here, right? And the community is a lot better. So I think that has changed, number one. Number two, I think for large corporations, the shift is going to be around, they've realized maybe that they don't have to have a footprint for 100% of their people all the time, right? Maybe they can get by with a footprint of 50% for 50% of their people all the time, and then just give all of their employees the flexibility to work a certain number of days remotely or at a co-working facility or somewhere else. So I think you're going to see the overall thought around, what footprint do I need for all my employees? I think you're going to see that shift. But I think for organizations like co-working spaces or shared office environments, I think you're going to see an increase in people taking advantage of those and using those. And then to the other piece about other co-working spaces in Tulsa, I think it's great. Just like if I see it as a sign of a healthy ecosystem, right? If we were doing this and no one else was in town thinking they could do a co-working space or support entrepreneurs or work with workforce development, I would be really worried, right? But the fact that we have enough activity and there is enough momentum around this to attract others to the space, to wanting to do this work, I think is a positive for Tulsa overall. I see it as a win-win.
That's beautiful, particularly since I love to tell everyone that Leadership Tulsa plans to open our co-working space this summer, and it'll be,
I think it's great,
on our members, right? So
yep.
An entrepreneurship theme, but the people who have enjoyed and benefited from Leadership Tulsa coming together to continue those beneficial connections as well.
I think that's great. And when you don't, the only last thing I put on that is that, one thing that I underscore for us 36 as we go forward is we're not just about space. We're about all these other things as well. Space is a piece of it, but all the other components are just as important.
And that would be true for our organization as well. But our mission is to identify, connect, and develop for service. So thank you for your service to our community. It's delightful to have you as a part of our Tulsa ecosystem. I can see vision for great things. So thank you for your time. We'll see you next week for the first of the new monthly One Gas Fireside Chat series, starting the first Friday of every month. And I'll be sending out one more email, one last chance to get registered for that. So thank you, Devon. I look forward to lots of beneficial connections in the future.
Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate the opportunity, and thank you all for the time.